record. Good. So everybody who does have it, go ahead and open up Unity Hub. It should look something like this. Oh, there's Rahina.
Hi, mister.
Hello.
Sorry, I couldn't connect. My internet was very weak.
Okay. All right, let's open up Unity. So let's see if we can get started. So open up Unity Hub, and then we're going to click New. 3D should be selected by default, but if not, click 3D. And then we can give this a name. We're going to do kind of just like a physics gravity simulation. So you can call it whatever you want, something like that, and create. And then we wait for a little bit because it takes a minute or so for Unity to start.
We leave in location what it says, like, or do we change where it says location?
You can put it wherever you want. The default is fine. That's just where it's going to store the files.
Okay.
Right. And for most of the time, like, you'll never actually look at it because we always use Unity Hub to open our projects anyway. So I don't care where it is for me.
Mr. We changed the name.
Yeah, you could change the name. Change the name to something. We're going to make like a physics or gravity simulation. So maybe you want to call it something like that. All right, hello, Roberto. We are getting started. So open up Unity,
okay.
And then click New.
Let me see if it launched correctly, because I still have some problems.
Okay, we'll see. I'm recording this for those who may end up having trouble later. Or like who have trouble now, I guess, and you need to do it later. Okay. All right. So this is Unity. Right now, of course, there's not much on the screen, but we can look at just sort of how to navigate around in 1 second. So first, let's go ahead. We're going to add a cube to the scene just so we kind of have a sense of what we're actually looking at. So here on the left is called the hierarchy. Every object in your scene is going to appear here. Right now, we have a camera and a light. We're going to add to that. So in this bar anywhere, 2-finger click, right click if you're on a PC, and we're going to create a 3D object, cube. Okay. Let me know when you've got a cube.
Ready.
There we go. 1, okay.
Ready.
2, yay.
Ready.
Going.
Ready, mister.
All right. Good, we're getting there. Okay, so now what? You notice, like, if you try to kind of like, I don't know, move around, like it doesn't do much. You can select things. These tools up here are really important. So first up, the hand. The hand lets us drag around the scene. That's pretty useful. What is not up here, which is kind of annoying, but when you're in the hand mode, hold down Option or Alt on your keyboard and you should get the little eye icon, and that's rotate, right? So we can move around in 3D when we hold Option or Alt. Okay. So with the hand, I can kind of move like side to side. Holding down Option, I'm going to rotate around the screen. I can zoom in and out, pretend you're scrolling on the MacBook. Oh, there we go. All right, so scrolling up and down, 2 fingers. will let me zoom in or out. All right, so with this, we should be able to kind of get a sense of being able to look around at what's happening in our scene. Now, obviously we need to be able to move things around. So let's see what our camera is seeing. You notice like I'm trying to click on the camera and sometimes this happens where it's like, you can't really, I guess I probably need the move tool. But anyway, a great way to select stuff is on the left. If I just click on its name, like ta-da, there's the camera. Or there's the cube, right? So it can be easier, I think, to select objects over here in the left bar instead of trying to click on them. Sometimes it works. But as you get more things, sometimes you accidentally click on the background or whatever. So I like to just do this. When you click on the camera, it's going to give you a preview of what the camera sees. So notice these like white lines that are coming out of the camera. That's the camera's field of view. That's what the camera can see. Right? So we can see that our cube is inside there. That's good. We can also kind of see it right there. And if we press play at the top, we can play our game. It's a fascinating game. A cube suspended in the air with no input whatsoever. But when you hit play, you're going to see the world from the perspective of the camera. Okay? Good. So we want to just sort of get used to making some objects, and we're going to make a very basic physics simulation, as I said. So for this to like fall onto something, it needs a floor. So we're going to make a floor now. Over here, two-finger click.
I lost that like part. It like my whole screen is just the game.
If you pinched to zoom, right, like this, like you did like a, just go
Maybe, yeah.
and bring it back. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. All right, here on the left, two-finger click, 3D object, cube. Now, it's maybe not super important now, but it's not a bad idea to try and stay organized by naming our things. So we can like double click, or right click, there it is, rename. Or over here, I'm gonna call this one like floor. Because then it's gonna be easy to remember which one is cube 1 and which one is cube 2, cube 3, cube 4 if I give them names, right? So I've got cube and I've got floor. Now I need to make this thing bigger. I need a big flat floor. So the scale tool right here. Notice, right, move tool, we'll get back to this one in a second, has arrows, scale tool has these little boxes. So when I drag on the boxes, it will get bigger, stretched out in that axis, right? So I want it to be wide and long, something like that.
But wait, how did you change it to cubes?
By clicking up here in the top left on the scale tool.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Now, of course, you can see my obvious problem is the cube is underneath the floor. Right? So I'm holding Option to look around, and I've got some trouble. If I click on the cube, and now the move tool, it doesn't even matter that it's underneath, right? This is a nice thing. I can just drag it up. So again, in each axis, it locks it, so it only moves in that way. Get used to moving objects like this, because unfortunately, if you grab the cube, it will move around, but it gets very like confusing with perspective, and you can end up thinking that, you know, the cube is on the floor, but like actually it's flying in the sky and you just didn't notice the shadow. Like,
Isn't it easier just to move it with the transforms options, like just writing the
you can
coordinates?
do it that way too. Yeah, some people like to like sort of, you know, oh, my world is going to be centered. For example, like I want this thing to be at 0, 0, 0, right? And you can use it that way too. So for example, I lost my cube, there it is, or I can find it here. I'm just gonna get my cube kind of somewhere in the middle, and then I'm gonna check that my camera can see it, which it can't. So I could move the camera up a bit, or I'm gonna move the cube around. All right, so we wanna get the cube. Oh, see, look, there's one of those like fake false perspective issues. I thought the cube was already in front of the camera. Look where it actually is. Right? It's It's like hanging out way over here. So I'm going to bring it kind of down to the ground. Okay, now let's check the camera. Ah, the camera can see my cube. Right, so this is what we want to do, is kind of back and forth with the camera. We make sure that the things we're making are going to actually be visible. There we go. Okay, so what happens when I press play now? What do you think?
Just going
You
to
from the
be
camera.
at the floor.
Let's see. Once you got it, press play. Nothing. All right, so this is an important thing, and you're going to have this problem a lot. You'll be like, wait, it's not moving. Wait, it's not, falling. It's not whatever I want it to do. We're about to see why. So by default, when you create things in Unity, they're objects, but they have no physics. So they are immovable. Like if I had another character right now that could move, it would bump into this cube and it would be like a rock solid wall, even though it's floating in air, right? When you just make an object, it cannot move. It's stuck there. It's like artwork more than a game object. If we want something to move, we have to tell Unity that this thing is movable. And the way we do that is a little like this. So click on your cube. Over here, this is like the, I don't know what we call it, the control panel. I mean, its name here is Inspector. There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on. We can kind of hide these things. We don't really care about them right now, just so we can see a little better. And we're going to add a component. So each one of these things, box collider, mesh renderer, cube, transform, these are components that belong to this cube. Components are kind of like what makes Unity work. This is where we're going to attach scripts and code. Everything happens over in this window. So we're going to add a component. And it's called rigid body. You just sort of have to remember that. It's a vocabulary word for Unity. So rigid body adds physics to things. It adds gravity. It adds the ability to be pushed around. When I click rigid body, we see some physics words. Mass, drag, angular drag. I don't really know what that is. Using gravity, la la la, right? So using gravity is checked by default. And now let's see what happens when I press play. Wow. Marvelous, isn't it? A cube falls to the floor. I could put it up slightly higher so you get a little more animation time. Phew. Are we that far? Can everybody get a cube to fall from the sky?
Mr. I have a problem with that.
Okay.
When I clicked play, like the floor just erased and the rigid body just did not save. Do we need to click like command save like every time?
No. Here, why don't you share your screen and let's take a look.
Okay, wait. Okay, here it is. I just need to add like the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But basically when I click play, like it just disappears. Wait, let me just add the floor and start it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All right.
The cube one.
It's good. Looks to be
Like it already has the rigid body and everything. So when I click play, it just erases.
That is very weird. Go back. Why would that happen? That is weird. Oh, okay. You are not in play mode right now. This can happen. Okay. A side note is that if you press play, anything you do while you press play will be erased when you leave play mode. So it's possible, like you were in play mode when you created the cube, Right
Mhm.
now, I know that we're not, because if it has gravity on it, then it should be, see, and everything erased. Okay, good. Do it again right now. This should be fine. I think you were just in play mode somehow when you made the changes.
Perfect.
We'll find later that like that feature can be good in that it allows you to do like lots of testing without messing up your game. But it can be really annoying if you accidentally do something while you're in play mode. You leave play mode and then it gets erased.
Mr. My cube doesn't stop flying.
Okay, let's see your screen. Okay. Hit play. I'm pretty sure you see what's wrong. Why is it not? Oh. Okay, it's actually a different issue than I thought. All right, so exit play mode. Just click the play button again to stop. Okay, I think your floor has gravity and your cube does not. Click on the floor. Your floor has a rigid body and uses gravity. Nope, we don't want the floor to use gravity. So if you click the 3 dots next to rigid body, way on the right, you can do remove component. Yeah, so we only want the rigid body on the cube. So now select the cube, good, and add the rigid body there. So add component, rigid body. Oh, wait, move it up so we can see if it actually falls, right? Because it's already started on the ground. We can't really tell if it's working, although I think it is. So you're gonna do pause, yeah, move it straight up, good. Perfect.
Mr. I can't find the option to use gravity.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, let's see your screen.
Wait.
Hey, Marco, I know you've missed a little bit of the setup here. So if you want to watch or if you want to try and open your Unity, and we can help you catch up. Okay, so careful, right now you've got the floor.
It's all right, Mr. I'm understanding.
Okay. The floor does not have gravity. We don't want it to. It should float.
Already changed
The
to it.
cube, we do want gravity, but we have to add that component. So we need to add component, rigid body.
Region.
You can just start typing and it'll search it for you. So type rigid. There it is. Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. Yeah. And now the same, drag up your cube so it's like in the air. Careful, use the arrows instead of the cube or it'll do funny things.
Okay.
Yeah, like that, and hit play and we should see the cube fall from the sky. You might, when you hit play, give it a second. Like Unity is a pretty big program and our poor laptops struggle. Sometimes like when you hit play, it might even lag like 2 seconds or 3 seconds when we have more complete scenes. So just trust it.
Okay, thanks.
Nice. All right. So let's make this a little more interesting. I mean, cubes falling from the sky is all right. But not super. So first thing we can do to make this slightly more interesting is I can rotate my cube so it doesn't fall quite so perfectly. So I'm gonna get just like a little bit of a better view. There we go. All right, cube, here you are. Now, we saw the move tool already. Next to it is rotate. So you see these little circles, that means it's gonna rotate along that axis. So I can sort of do-do, right? And make it so it's not falling like quite so perfectly anymore. And now I hit play. So satisfying. And we can see a little bit more of the physics engine at work, right? This is why Unity is used to make games, because like honestly, creating a 3D object that falls from the sky and like does this little like tunk tunk, I mean, that could be a semester project if we did it from scratch. But, you know, we use these tools because they give us stuff to work with, right? So it's already got this physics engine. It's already doing an incredible amount of math, right? To make those collisions happen, to understand how it would fall, all this stuff. And now I can make more. So 2-finger click, 3D object, cube. I want to make these things fall in a way that they hit one another. So I'm going to kind of line it up this way, and then I'm going to line it up that way, and then maybe go straight up a little bit. And, you know, rotate it a bit so it's also not perfect. What's wrong? What am I missing?
The rigid body.
Good, the rigid body. You can see the shadow, right? But I created a cube. That means it's like just an object, right? Because maybe that's like a cloud and I actually wanted it to stay in the sky. Unity doesn't know, right? So most common problem ever when you get started with Unity is forgetting rigid bodies. Add component, hey, it remembers what I was doing, rigid body. Come back, let's try that again. Boom. There it is. All right, so practice now. Let's see if you can get, you know, 5 objects at least on the screen. And let's not just use cubes. Remember, you can use the scale tool. So I can make kind of like a long skinny thing. Maybe this one's like the other way, right? So you can make like a little Jenga tower. And you can also make objects for them to fall on. I'm totally fine. Play around with some of these. These bottom ones are a little bit tricky to use, like actually making terrain and trees and stuff, but cube, sphere, capsule, cylinder are exactly what they sound like. So I could make a sphere, for example, and this thing will roll around. Well, I can make it into an oblong. This is one of those rare cases where you actually do want to scale in all directions. You can click on the object and then drag. So here's a big ball. And I want it to fall on top of these things. There, over here. And I'm gonna add my rigid body. Here we go.
Nice.
Nice. And in these frictionless environments that we've created, it's going to eventually fall off the edge. Goodbye. You could do things like create a sphere, for example, and make them part of the environment, right? So I could scale this baby up. And now this is like a feature that they can fall on, which will create some interesting physics. So notice I'm not adding a rigid body here. I want this thing to be kind of like part of the environment. It's immovable. Yes. You can do funny things if you really want to go there. You can rotate the floor slightly. So let's rotate the floor. Boop. And now things have a tendency, oh, we can't see it very well, but they'll start to like move towards us. Rarely will we actually use the mass features for this class. It usually just doesn't matter, but you can play around a little bit with mass, right? So the way that, you know, if a 1 kilogram object hits a 1 kilo object, you know, they're roughly the same. But I can make like a bowling ball that weighs 10 kilos and a very small light object. And then this one will push the other one more, for example. So let's, I don't know, make this thing weigh 10 and these now weigh 1. It might not change a lot. It depends on the simulation, but you can make, see, like it bounces more now because it's heavier. So some interesting stuff happens. All right, so give me 5 objects on the screen, at least 3 of which are physics-based. And we're good. So this should give you lots of practice moving around the scene, zooming in and out, moving objects, so they line up. And then think we can make things like ramps. So if I move this thing over and down, and I stretch it out, and then I rotate it. Maybe I'll rotate it towards the camera so we can see what's happening. And I'm going to move it back over here, kind of like this. Yeah, let's see what that does. All right. Next class, we're going to start being able to control one of these, right? I mean, we could do it now if people want to. You tell me, how far do you want to go?
Mr.
Yes.
I'm doing right now because they're going to install me the application right now.
Ah, good. Okay. Yep. Cool. And if you're finding, it's hard to see or something, you can always just move your camera. So move the camera back. Now I can see a little bit more.
How do you zoom in and out?
Pretend you're scrolling on a web page. Like it's just a scroll.
Okay.
It's not pinch. Yeah.
Mister, how do you change the color of an object? Because my floor is like black.
If your floor is black, then probably your light is somewhere funny. So you might want to click on light and kind of check where it's at.
Okay.
That will probably have an effect because like where the light is could do it. Mine's not making much difference at all.
Mister, is there a way to have negative gravity?
Well, that's a good question. Not in the window here. We can, like in code, we're going to start adding forces. And so we can add an upward force to something and that would create negative gravity, but you can't really do it here, right? So like later, we're going to make the cube like into a little player and we can control it with the arrow keys and like spacebar to jump, right? And so when we jump, we add an upward force. But then because gravity still works, it actually comes back down, right? Like it behaves in the way that we kind of want it to.
Mister, how can I like rotate?
The object or your view?
No, my view.
Hold down Option. Hold Option and then.
Okay, thank you.
You can also shortcut copy paste objects and they come with all of their components. So if I copy paste, it comes exactly where it was. But now I can make like 1 billion balls that all have physics very quickly because each of these has its rigid body on it still. Right? And because I sloped my floor, they're all going to start rolling towards me. That could be a quicker way to get things set up, right? If you need multiples of something, set up the first one, like give it its rigid body, and then we can just copy paste. And so we can make lots of things very quickly. And you could even select with Shift multiples, which is hard to do. Better to do it this way. Sphere, sphere, copy paste all of those. Now I have like millions and millions of balls. Here we go. Oh, one of them somewhere. Oh, I selected this sphere too. So one of the environment spheres made it into my game. Oh well. This is why we should name things, right? Because I should have named that one different, not just sphere 13, so I would know which one it was. But, oh well, there it is. If you need to delete an object, it's command delete. So if you just press delete, nothing, but if you command delete, you can delete an object if you don't want it anymore. I think I got them all. All right, so when you've got a scene set up, let me know.